All right, due to the time, I think we shall start. Let us start with a word of prayers. Then I will briefly introduce what is GLC and tonight's session all about. Okay, let's pray. Father, I want to thank you, Father, for tonight, Lord. We have a gathering of brothers and sisters from different regions in East Asia. Father, I pray, Lord, as we open our hearts, Lord, spend this time of 1 hour plus to learn, to interact, and to pray for one another and for the ministry that we are in our church or in our communities or where you're bringing us. So, Father, I pray, Lord, you bless the speakers as they share, and may we open our hearts to receive it. In Jesus' name, we ask and pray. Amen. Uh, Thank you for joining us tonight. For those who is new, GLC stand for Graduate Leaders. It can be a consultation, and it can be a Shiro and Lisman laughing. We have a WhatsApp group for among the leaders in East Asia for the graduate leaders. And we have a meetings every 2 months. The meetings is like Zoom for us to connect. And recently, we think that it's good to have a session to something that we can learn from other movement from East Asia, which tonight the topic is on mentoring. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to invite Herbert to share first. As you can see, he is a Lego enthusiast. Later, if he's in his sharing, he can share more. If not, during the fellowship time, he can tell us lah about his Lego journey and everything. He also is a part-time staff worker. Am I right, Herbert? Yeah,
Yes,
and he
right,
can
right, definitely, yes.
yeah in GCF Hong Kong. So he is will share to us what's happening in GCF Hong Kong and the graduate ministry there. Okay, I pass the time to you, Herbert.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so everyone can hear me well? Yeah, all good? Okay, great. So, well, today's suppose I have my teammate Henry should be here today, but I think he got something he need to work. So I'm the only one who would be in the you will spare with me in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So if you cannot hear me properly, just maybe raise your hand. You can ask me to slow it down if I talk too fast. So okay, is everything fine? All good? Okay. So yeah, this is we about Jesus movement, like we kind of moving forward. We have some reflection over the past 6 months since I joined the ministry. So okay, wait. So, first of all, we need some like reconnections within the community, especially like for GCF. We want to it's kind of is the extension of the university campus ministry. In Hong Kong, we call it IC. So we kind of like we know that because when they get graduate, they will be working the workplace. But during the time when they're time in the campus, they have all a bunch of like group or fellowship. But when they left university, they kind of like to be left alone. But they have learned a lot of stuff during time in their university. So we kind of want to step forward instead of wait for them to finish, get graduate and meet them up. We will reach them out. So like the latest events we have, we kind of help out participate in one of the IC camp, like the university campus ministry camp. It was like a 4 days camp, so we join in, we introduce ourselves, we tell us what is GCF, what we do. So we kind of like drop the IG Facebooks for them to click like and subscribe so they might know what's happened, what's going on. So we kind of get to know each other. And also in like upcoming, I will enter to the different campus. I will do some kind of like come up using self-reflection workshop or some team buildings by using Lego bricks. I will do that because I'm specialized in using Lego bricks to do my ministry work. So I hope I can help them to have some connections and get to know each other. So by the time when they finish, they can reach me and my colleague Henry so that we can continue to have fellowship in this way. So, and the other thing, like second point, is about I found like when they left the workplace, like I mean, when they entered the workplace, they kind of like they work very hard to strike for the positions, to like find what they are. Maybe they want to be a manager or a supervisor within the next 3 years, and they kind of will compete with their colleagues or the same the friends in the same year of graduates, not exactly in a bad way, but they will have pressures. You know what I mean? So, but they kind of like lost because they so focused about work. They kind of like lost what is to be a Christian. So I kind of like want them to not to forget. I want them to give them some walk with them, walking through them, giving them mentorship, illustrate what is it like, share their struggle and they work from that. It's not really kind of like a solution because everyone is unique. Everyone's situation is so different. So we kind of like we want to help, not kind of like walk them through, not help them out. We walk together. So at the end, they will become a real marketplace Christians. That's what we want, so they can make an impact within their own industry. They add a lot more Christian value within the workplace, makes them change, make a better environment, or for back to the community. I think that's something what we want to do at the end. So it's kind of three kind of reconnections. One is the first is connection with the university. The second one is about the 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 work life and the Christian life, and also is the Christian value within the workplace. So there's a three thing we want to reconnect, and kind of what we want to do. So for the workshop, we need more variety and more collaboration. As you can see from the screen, you have seen some kind of question mark and some kind of like with names. What we did recently, once is path. Path we just did we just finished a proto programs for the fresh graduates, which is like 6 workshops. We talk. We do have Bible study. We have some brick play, and also we have some gameplay. So we want them to like more experiential experience to taste what's it like. So let me go to the next slide and talk a bit more. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, this one. Okay. It's so we kind of help them to kind of define themselves, finding the positions, go to the Bibles, look into the Bible's world, and what about the marketing world, like in the marketplace? What is it like? Is there similarity? Is there so much different? Look into the different um, Bible characters. What are they struggle? What are they facing? I remember the latest one we look into is King Solomon, like when he becomes a king, like what is his struggle when he prays. Did they have the same? Do they have the same? Like the student also have that kind of like eager to pray to God. They want to do or seek for God's help. These kind of things. So at the end, we want to have them some kind of thought changes, not only work, but want to add a bit more um, Christian background or like build them up to let them to rethink a bit more before they going to plan about the career in 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 the coming years or in the next couple of months. So yeah, this is what we did, and also like this is the path the ministry. I did a brick play. I do a lot of different kind of combinations. The reason one I did in the camp is I use brick play, and also I do the Lectio Divina. I think people heard from Lectio Divina. I try to let the participant have more experiential, different experiential way to help them to have self-reflect about the status when we are trying to read the Bibles and when they heard about the verse, what kind of impact given them, and also at the same time when I do some brick play and kind of stuff, do they give them extra experiential experience? Is it giving something different? So we try to do some different stuff. So to we have the same goal, but we try to do some different thing to kind of like attract, give them more curious, more attract them to do things and help them to reflect themselves. And the third one is the multimedia. I just recent I had we had the video out. We kind of visit different people, Christians, brothers and sisters from different fields. This lady is called, she's Kameli. She was previously the district councillor candidate, but she was starting off from a nurse. And about we wanted to hear this people to hear about her story, what changes her from nursery. She why she want to become a district councillor, and then from now she back to a, not going back to nurse, but something to do with some kind of therapeutic stuff. So it's these kind of transformation would maybe a very interesting story. And how's God change her, have this kind of thoughts, and how God leads her. So we want to have like using multimedia and to attract young Christians graduate Christians to have different dynamics to mold them in the next 4 or 5 years, especially in the workplace. They might get lost and they kind of like in lonely and um, kind of like they have to fight for themselves, especially in Hong Kong. So yeah, so what we're trying to do is like we want to have a spiritual journey and a kind of companionship with them, especially from one generation to one to generations, because when they become a grown up a bit more, I mean, more mature, they can go back. They can go back to like the young graduates, and then tell them like, this is my testimony. You follow, and then they can have gold and different things they can share. So something like that. So well, I think that's my presentations. So any questions? I think I stop sharing from here first, or do I leave it on, or
Yeah, we can leave it on for a while.
sure.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Herbert, for sharing. We'll ask you more questions about GCF Hong Kong and your mentoring program towards the graduate there. For those that just joined us, just to inform you all, after this will be a sharing by another speaker. I'll introduce him. Then we'll have a time of breakout rooms for us to connect with graduates and staff and leaders from other regions. At the same time, if there's any prayer request, there's a prayer needs, do let us know. Then we will pray for one another. Now I'd like to invite our brother Michael. Yeah, he is the Gen Sec of GCF Singapore. So he is also a guy who will love to cycle. I think he every day or every week he cycle around Singapore. Am I right? Yeah. Yeah. So I
Every
like
week lah, not
every
every
week,
day.
huh? Ah, wow. Okay. One day you like to visit Singapore, you like to cycle, you know who to go to. All right. I'd like to pass the time to Michael to share with us about GCF Singapore.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy, and also thank you, Lisman, as well as the East Asia GLC for this opportunity to share. So I'll just share with you all a little bit of our ministry in GCF Singapore, especially for the young graduates ministry. So my sharing will not be specifically on mentoring, but I will mention mentoring also. But feel free, if you have any questions, you can always ask me later on, specifically about mentoring. Okay, just a little bit of intro. This is our staff team. The one in the middle is Simon. Uncle Simon is our long-serving admin staff. And the one on the right is Sean. Sean is actually the young graduate ministry staff of GCF. So the stuff that I'll be presenting later, partially or even the majority of it with regard to young graduates ministry was actually developed with Sean's help, with Sean's contribution in it. Okay, so without further ado, let me just share with you a little bit the profile of our young graduates, which I believe not really exactly unique to Singapore alone. I believe some of us would actually share similar observation or sentiments about our young graduates. So for example, a lot of people call them the strawberry generation, but I mean, I will not actually blame them entirely for that. Why? Because number one, in Singapore, they are well provided for by the government and their parents. And then they are, at the same time, they are also pressurized to perform, right? So they have to cram a lot of stuff in their study. And yet at the same time, they are given plenty of choices in their life. So growing like that, at times they are expected to be resilient. You know, in this pandemic time, resilience is the word that keep being repeated again and again. So they are expected to be resilient. So they are facing a lot of pressure, and they are often misunderstood, okay, by the older generation. The durian generation. I mean, they are called many things, but I think for me, sometimes we simply misunderstand them. The profile of our young graduates that we serve in GCF Singapore mostly are graduates from FES, from campus ministry. So with technology in their hands to find, marketplace ministry and theology, they have contents at their fingertips. We have no issue finding contents to fit what they want to know. But I think what they need more is personal guidance and life example. And I think this is where mentoring and young graduates ministry actually come in very useful, very necessary. All right. So these are some initiatives that we developed in recent years with regard to graduates ministry. And of course, this is also kudos to my predecessor, Lisman, right, who started some of this initiative. For example, last year we started what we call life hacks. These are some sessions that we offer to final year students, especially those under FES ministry. I think I would like to resonate with what Herbert mentioned earlier about integration with student ministry, and we felt that this is something important that we need to keep building bridges with, right? We want to have a good integration with the student ministry. The second one would be the graduation party. This is something that we are still organizing. So we are planning to have one in July. Again, this is something that we do together with FES Singapore. The third one would be classmates to colleagues, or C2C. We have run this since 2018, again with the help of Lisman, my predecessor, and Sean, who is our young graduate ministry staff. So basically, C2C is a 3-year discipleship program. I will present to you more on the first year program. So the first year program is more like a discipleship group catered especially for young graduates, with contents and topics very particular to new graduates. On the second and third year will be more on a project basis. We also organize spiritual retreat twice a year to provide some kind of oasis for pause and pondering. I mean, all of us who have been working in a marketplace know how busy, how tiring workplace can be. So this is something that we offer to our graduates. And finally, this is the mentoring program that we have been planning since last year, and we want to launch it in the second half of 2022. So we are working together with people, for example, like Dr. Tan Su In, to actually develop the pool of mentors that are ready to serve the younger graduates. Okay, so I will talk into details about the C2C program. So what is the outcome of C2C? Missional disciples, basically to be witness of Christ in the society. And secondly, faith and work integration. Thirdly, to be rooted in the global and local church to grow and contribute to the church and ministry. Number 4, resilient disciples. So we want our graduates who come from the student ministry under FES, they have been growing through the ministry, and they have certain kind of idealism that they learn right in the university. So we don't want them to just lose the idealism entirely, but we want them to have a balance between the realism as well as the idealism that they accumulated or they learned beforehand. So in year 1 program, it is intended to be an exposure or orientation to taste the complexity and breadth of transitioning into working adults. So basically, we want to help support our young graduates in their transition. So these are the 8 topics that we covered in the first year of C2C, right? I said, so how we run this is first we have a big group session to cover each of the topics every month. And then after the big group session, they will actually go to small group, 4 to 5 people. There will be one facilitator inside. Usually the more senior graduates will be the facilitator to meet monthly after the big group session. In the past, we managed to do this face-to-face, right? Both the big groups and the small groups. But because of COVID, we are limited. So sometimes we have to run this hybrid or even on Zoom. And then at the same time, this is new. The committee just developed a monthly journal to record down their learnings and reflections. And finally, every half a year, there will be a full day retreat to actually consolidate all their learning and experience. So just this is just a share. The one on the top left is actually the C2C committee. So you see there Sean and also a bunch of them. Actually, there are a couple more who are not inside this picture. And then on the second top right is during our retreat last November. Yeah, so this is only my small group. Okay, there are actually a few more small group in the retreat, but because of COVID, we can't take pictures with the whole lot together. The one on the top left is one of our spiritual retreat session, and the one on the bottom right is one of our mentoring session with Dr. Tan Su In. So these are the so-called future mentors. Okay, mentoring the mentors. Okay, so these are some lessons and reflections that Sean and I shared after serving in the Young Graduates Ministry. Number one, I think we learned the posture of discipleship that we always assume we need to learn with childlike attitude in order to understand and serve our young graduates better. I think gone are the days that we always think we know better than our young graduates, right? I think, as I said, they can always get contents at their fingertips, but what they need more is actually someone who walk alongside them, the alongside-edness, the alongside ministry. Number two is the customized learning. To always stretch ourselves to be creative, to experiment new things, because every batch of fresh graduates is unique. And thirdly, multidisciplinary. We engage different graduates from multiple fronts, so with variety and personalization. Okay, so that's all I have. Yeah, so I pass the time back to Jimmy.
Great. I'll spotlight both you and Herbert. Yeah, I can share the screen. Then now is the time that everybody take a breath to try to process back what have been shared by Herbert and Michael. I believe two of them as a graduate staff also in the ministry. I think they are mentor also in their way. So if you have any questions, you can either go to the Slido or you can post in the chat box, but we will definitely answer the Slido one first. Yeah. Then only if due to the time, then we will see how it goes, then we will extend the question. All right, the first question I'll post in the chat box also. Maybe this one is for Herbert. Herbert, can you elaborate by giving more example how you use multimedia to mentor the young graduates in your slides? Yeah, as you mentioned.
Oh, how I use multimedia? Okay, we because like before we can use talk freely in Hong Kong, but now kind of in the environment kind of change a bit. So we kind of like we're going to arouse the topic a bit more interesting on day in day out life. The one we just did, it's just kind of we kind of arouse because usually we post a lot of like text and writings from the Facebook, but now because a lot of young graduates, they use a lot of like Instagram these days, so we try not to bounce off. Like we have like two kind of audience. One is very young and the other one is more mature like me and forward. So we kind of like attract different people. Like the one we just did is actually we're going to do a Bible study about Mark, but what we did, I didn't have the picture to share, but I mean I didn't have the picture to share, but we actually have a image of a monkey was holding a peach. in Chinese word is more tao tou, it's like stealing a peach. We use the word tou, like it's peach, but in Chinese word it's more like you can be the peach or you can be escaping. like you're running away. So we kind of use these kind of like images to attract the young people to like, oh, something eye catchy, because it's kind of like the talk is kind of be like very serious, but when we use like very traditional picture to tell them like, oh, join us, you cannot really arouse the interest. Like, for example, like Friday, we actually we actually post something. We're gonna watch a Netflix movie, Don't Look Up. So we're gonna watch it, and then we have some discussion afterward, and what it means to you, what kind of insight it gives you. So we kind of like use these kind of like eye catchy, like kind of like cautions and all these kind of images to attract young people. Kind of very little words, or maybe like, because yeah, something like that. So to arouse the interest. I think curiosity is very important, especially for Hong Kong young people these days, because we have too many informations, and they kind of they don't follow old people these days. They have their
Yeah.
own way. They just say, you guys are too old. We just use our way.
I think this question is very important. Like what you say, information are plenty. So how are you using it to mentor the young ones? Thanks for sharing. I would like to pose the second question, maybe for Michael. Yeah. One of the issue of mentoring is like they are consciously and unconsciously trying to make the mentee to be the same mode as them. Michael number two, Michael number three, Michael number four. I'm not sure it's good or bad. What do you think? And but based on this person question is it any way to prevent it, because not to same mode but as how God uniquely create them? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I think it's a very apt question. I think when we mentor somebody, there is a danger of just replicating ourselves, right? Just making our mentees or our mentorees do the same thing that we do, or act the way we do, or choose the way we choose things. But I think it's not right. I think we want to follow the example of Paul when he said that you follow me as I follow Jesus Christ. So in a sense, we are not making little Michael or little Jimmy, but I think we want to, instead, we want to really uh, raise up little Christ, right? Like people who follow Christ. So we are just a vessel. So I think the main issue, I think that's when I asked this question to Dr. Tan Su In during one of the mentoring session, and uh, I think this is the danger, and he agreed that this is a danger, especially when we talk about mentoring in the context of the older generations. In the context of older generation, mentoring means the mentors will tell their mentorees what to do, or how to think. But I think this day, again, I would like to repeat this word, the alongsidedness. So I think our ministry is a alongside ministry, meaning that we walk alongside them, but we also appreciate their uniqueness at the same time. So uh, in a sense that uh, we share with them our struggle and ask them to reflect and from the Bible, as well as from their own experience, what would be applicable, what would be contextual in their own life, right? So we don't really impose, or this is what you must do. Instead, we ask the question, what do you think, and why you make this decision, right? But of course, I mean, as a mentor, we can tell them, oh, I think there's something wrong with this decision, right? And I think it's our duty to tell them if there is something wrong, that there's certain consequences in every decision that we make, but we don't make the decision for them. Yeah, I
Thanks.
think that's the
Yeah.
difference, right?
Thanks, Michael. Apart from hearing from Herbert and Michael, we would like to hear from the rest of you too, because I believe most the participant here is also a graduate leaders, and I think some of you are also especially those ask those questions, you have some experience and reason. So we welcome for some of you to post in the chat box some of your comments, some of your encouragement, or some of your stories. Yeah, nowadays, like just now we say someone multitasking two Zoom at the same time. I think some of us can able to hear and read. If not, I'll just advise you just to listen to the to the sharing. Then you can read the chat box later. All right. I would like to ask for the third questions. This one maybe is either one of you can share a quick one from both sides. How do you involve senior grads to mentor the younger one? Yeah, and how they be willing in your ministry, in your countries. Do you really get the older one to, because they always say there's challenge, the older one want to mentor and the younger one very hard to find them. What is the current situation in your movement country that we can learn from, yeah, the rest of East Asia?
The one we did about Path is actually is one of the a bit more senior graduates. He's only about like under 30, but he has a lot of experience. So instead of like kind of he act like a teacher, but of course he's much older. But he kind of like just mainly share about his experience, about his struggle, and it's kind of like they have the same feeling, even though like, and when the young graduates complain and talk about the struggle, we kind of give them they kind of give them the image that, oh, it's normal, and you will get through it. So the when he share about his testimony, his past experience, it's kind of echo gives them kind of hope, and it's only just you just give them a few more like couple of years, they can break through that. So I think the young graduates in they don't really see him as a mentor, but it's kind of like just a young a more experienced brothers. So it's like we're doing the mentorship, but we don't try to give them this mentor feeling, because it's kind of bit hierarchies, or you listen to a teacher. But these days, the young grads, they don't, unless they know you very well, they really sees you as a teacher. Otherwise, it's more like a peers. Even though I get to know these young graduates, I just talk to them like a friends. Although I always laugh at myself, oh, I'm too old to understand you. But they kind of like relax a bit more. So I'm not trying to pretend myself as a senior. Although I do have a lot of experience, but I'm not trying to do it this way. And even though
Yeah.
the yeah.
We'll come back to you, Herbert, because I think the question also how to involve the seniors apart from yourself. If there's anything from your movement, like getting all the older seniors, yeah. But we'll come to you after Michael. Yeah. Michael, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I would say that there's no issue on getting the seniors to to be willing to mentor the young graduates, and at the same time there is no issue also. I mean, this is from our experience. Just last year we opened in our partnership with one of the campus ministry. Actually, they opened a mentoring for the final year students, so graduating students who are about to graduate. So we have very huge response from the students, and the campus ministry asked me, to actually get some graduates from our side, from GCF, who would want to mentor. And there's no issue in getting both the mentors and the mentees. The issue is always the expectation. What would the mentees, the student, expect out of the mentor, and what would the mentor expect to offer to the students? So I think the key issue here is communication. So I think both the mentors and mentees must be able to manage or even adjust their expectations. So organization, for example, like FES and GCF, would actually come in very necessary to actually provide the context. As I said earlier, because the mentors who are more senior would have a certain understanding about mentoring. And then the juniors, I mean, the young graduates or even the students who want to be mentored, they have certain expectation of what it means to be mentored. So I think from the get-go, from the start, we need to be clear on that.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Okay, I'd like to give Michael and Herbert a break. I like to get some response from the floor. I just now I saw someone switch on the video, like what to comment or to give your point of view. Anyone from the GLC people like to add on based on the questions? Yeah, you can unmute and we can spotlight you. based on what was shared just now, would you like to add on? If not, after the next question, maybe if you have some, okay, Shiro.
Uh, oh, me? Uh, I'm just released the mute from host. So,
I saw you unmute.
but I can say about this mentoring. We have several experts group, in such as the teachers or the social welfare worker, and one day, very senior grad came to me and uh, she said, use me as a mentor. And I'm very experienced and I can contribute to these young grads. So why don't you use my experience and your sharing? So, but I was afraid if I introduced that senior grad to the young grads, there might be conflict. I think that's a very bad example, and so maybe they try to force her she tried to force her experience to the do like me. So um, there are some those type of grads. So what the staff workers role is to the distinguish that what kind of a person is the right person to support young grads. So in that meaning, the staff workers role has been very important. That's our case.
Thank you, Shiro. Yeah. Okay, I will add on, maybe we address a question asked in the chat box also. Yeah. For this one is to Michael. Yeah. How there's been like any incidents that mentor and conflict, yeah, understanding on God's words, yeah, conflicting advice.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that the advice from the mentor is unbiblical, but I would say that there's always, I mean, the incidents where there are misunderstanding. I mean, probably the mentor would understand the Bible, the biblical guidance in this way, but the mentees understand it in the other way. So I think I agree with Shiro. So this is the role of organization or even the staff workers of FES or GCF actually come in play. So I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, this is our responsibility as staff workers, to handle such conflicts. Um, so the tough thing is really to so-called remain neutral. I understand that. I mean, everybody has their own bias, right? Of course. So, but it is our duty to, as much as possible, to remain neutral and try to be the middle ground, the middleman, in a sense, to get the people to talk. I mean, rather than promoting certain view, but rather to talk, yeah, for them to listen to one another.
Okay. Yeah. Herbert, you have anything to add? If not, it's okay. How about the rest? Anyone want to add on to respond to what been shared? Or you don't mind, you like to unmute and switch on your video to ask questions also. Yeah. If not, then I have questions. I have from my side. Actually, there are questions in the slide though, regarding the movement about your program. I think that one, when we have a time after the session, then they can ask you personally. So my question is based on more on everyone can learn. Okay, name one or two struggles faced by graduates uniquely in your country or movement. In Malaysia, we have many races, so sometimes there are racial things that we need to solve or to build bridges in Malaysia. But how about other countries like Singapore, Hong Kong? What is uniquely challenges faced by your graduate that you need to mentor them in that area? When you're ready, you can just unmute and let us know.
For us, I think in Singapore, finding a common time is a really great issue, and I think with the work from home, it doesn't make things easier because everybody have their own schedule, and I think I'll have to mention some of our graduates who work in the front line, like they are in the healthcare. Some of them are nurse and doctors. So it's really difficult because in one of the small group uh, that I facilitate in the C2C program, I think one person was a nurse, and it was really difficult for her to find the time. Although she want to join, but it's really difficult to find the right schedule for her. Yeah, because of the shift. I think that's one. The other one would be sometimes. I think in our context with this pandemic, I think a lot of uh, the measures, the changes in the measures, the safety measures by the government, uh, sometimes caught us by surprise lah. Yeah, sometimes we just don't expect, they change the measure like in a few days, a few nights like that. Yeah.
Thanks. How about Herbert?
To me, the young graduates kind of like they have a lot of commitment. They within their own churches, they have a lot of things to do, and also a commitment to their own work. Actually, I have a couple. Like he always finish by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evenings. So it's very hard for him to attend any of our programs or and so we kind of instead of we wait for him to come to join us. We kind of reach out to have lunch with them, like we meet them up, especially like at Zoom. It's they most of the graduates prefer to meet up face to face, like to have chit chat and to discuss, like to have Bible study together. Um, Even though in a small group, like it can be, it doesn't have to be a big one, but the small, like I think the like real touch, it's very important for them. And I found that when every time we have lockdown, it's kind of like kind of undo what we do. So I think that's the struggle. Yeah, that's the struggle.
Thanks. Yeah. I think Alfredo raised hand. Any question you'd like to respond or to add on?
Hello, good evening. I hope I can be heard. I'm from the Philippines. I think generally one of the major challenges or issues for mentors in this era, 21st century, 22nd century, is trust. Why will I confide in you? Why will I follow you? I've read enough. I've also have mentors in church. I think I can journey in life and I can reach my dreams without you. You have to show yourself worthy and maybe humble and patient. So it's really challenging, especially for this generation of students, young graduates, professionals, to really look up to us. What do we have that they don't have, and what is in us? So I always challenge myself. It's not about what I read, what my position is, because I'm also a professor at the university, but the Christ that I have, the humility and the grace that he shows me. So I've met a lot of people who are more prolific, they have more time than I do, they have more experience. But when I share with them the grace of God, then from experience, they are drawn to me as their mentor. So thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask a response by Jong Ho, because he mentioned in the Zoom chat box the definition of mentoring. Yeah, actually, it's very good for us to understand. Yeah, Jong Ho would like to add on a few more, like the core nature and something that can encourage us.
Well, I've been taking this course online over this past year about coaching and mentoring. And even though I was involved in meeting people all the time throughout my ministry for many years, I began to realize the benefits of having some intentionality in the mentoring relationship, because this kind of program will make the mentor and the mentoree or mentee to have a covenant to make a commitment to this relationship. And mentors, for example, like myself and some others in East Asia, need to be trained or at least to be orientated to understand the purpose and tools, knowledge, skills, and they need to be supervised. If they are left alone, they may make lots of mistakes and even cause harms to the people they are intended to help. So they need support and supervision. So mentoring programs should not be left alone on their own. So it has to be coordinated and well managed. Otherwise, there is always a danger. So training or orientation and mutual support or supervision, these kind of safety features are necessary for the graduate ministry to bring the benefit to the mentees. That's what I wanted to emphasize.
Thanks, Jung-ho. Yeah, later we will share a bit of the course that Jung-ho has mentioned. Yeah, then we will maybe, if you are interested, then from there you all can register as what Lisman has posted there. All right, I'd like to hear also from the younger one. Yeah, anyone like to ask? Some of us is like so-called the mentor level. Yeah, our mentee, share with us what's your struggles. Wow, very hard to find a mentor. They don't understand us. Yeah, we'd like to hear from you all. If you're shy, no need to switch on your video. Anyone? Yeah, if not, I like to pick names. Sean, you look young. Just now when Michael show your video in part of the in his slide sharing, you also mentioned there's a needs, right? You mentioned there's a great burdens for mentees, and share with us what's your point of view of the mentees and the struggles. Sean, if you're there. Okay, we give Sean, he will come back to us. All right, how about others? Yeah, in the chat box, we can respond to you. Okay, he's outside, no worries. Hopefully in the breakout rooms have a chance to hear from you. Okay, anyone else like to share with us? Age different, okay. All right, then I'd like to ask, based on the Slido, I'll post here, then the two panelists can respond. What is the first step to start a mentoring ministry? And graduate ministry in our movement is very small and do not have dedicated grad staff. You can share also in terms of the ministry in the graduate ministry, in church, and so the others also can learn from here.
I can't answer this for everyone, but I think what I learned, I think when I was working on this mentoring program together with Dr. Tan Soo In, is we can always start small. So I think don't worry about the size. I think what is even more important is actually the culture, that we develop a culture of mentoring in our organization. Yeah, so we can always start with one or two graduates who are like-minded, who wants to mentor or even who wants to get mentored. So from there, then we can start the ball rolling. And then from then on, then people, I mean, hopefully the next batch of graduates will know that we have this mentoring culture in our graduate ministry, so that when the time comes, when they do need somebody to walk with them, then they can always approach us. But this is how we need to make people know that we have this culture. I think the culture itself is more important than the program.
Thank you, Michael. How about Herbert?
I think listening is very important, because, and kind of like the dialogue kind of have to be non-judgmental, because like if we start having a dialogue and throughout the conversations if you keep on listening, because they always have their own story. You have to listen the whole entire story to kind of understand what's going on. It can be a logical thing. It can be emotional things. So I think once they kind of they feel that they're easy to talk to, or and I think this is the first step about mentorship, because you can see what they need, but you don't really say it right away, because it's kind of like leading them, kind of asking them questions and let them think, because it's part of their journey. It is we know the answer, but that doesn't mean he knows. He or she need to experience it, and then he tell or she tells it what it is, and then we give the next, and then we can build trust, and then that's the mentor how we start, and then you can form, and then people will say, oh, refer to him, and then people will reach out to you. I think this is the old-fashioned way, but I think it's a effective way. Yeah, that's my sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Oh, Michael already respond to Ching. Very good. Anyone else would like to respond or ask questions regarding mentoring? If not, I'd like to maybe ask GCF Hong Kong, in your slides, there's mention from generation to generations. So how do you do intergeneration ministry?
Actually, have to make you have to make friends with them. I started with friends with them, and then the more senior graduates, they have to meet up with the young graduates. They have to build trust, and when they listen to you, and you can do the mentoring, that will have the impact, because what the senior graduate go through, it means something to the young one. They have, at least they have hope, because maybe they have the same industry, especially if they have the same industry, they know what's inside. So whenever they share, or whenever they share about the testimony, it will echo them. So what they will give them some kind of guidance, or kind of like, okay, there's a way they can follow. Instead of no way out, because a lot of young graduates, they don't have someone to look into, or maybe they don't see the future, especially in Hong Kong. About let me share, they do their own work, but they don't see, they kind of keep on looping, and they kind of, when will this end, when will they get promoted? But when someone tells them, okay, maybe in the next 2 years, you're just hanging there and you will go through it. So especially when someone has experienced it, it really gives them a good message that it's a reality. They have to face reality. On the other hand, there's a way out. So, and if someone has walked through it, it means a lot more. So what I say from generation to generation is use the past experience to pass on to the young generation, and then the young generation, once they become the old generation, they pass on next generations. So it's just like GCF match with the uni campus ministry. It's the same thing. It's just more experience, but it's just we still keep consistent talking the same stuff. But the one during the university, they only have all the head knowledge, but they don't have the experience yet. Now when we go to workplace, it's more like an application, the real test. The real test really tells them this is the realities, and now you can have to go through. We walk through with you. So this is what we call about generation to generation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a quick question by Sophon. Yeah, how you consider as a mentorship? Can physical exercise, fitness consider mentorship, or what kind of activities form as mentorship? Yeah. What's your thought?
I think I would like to repeat what I think Jong Ho mentioned, that mentoring is an intentional process. So, in a sense that it's not about what activity must constitute the mentoring, but what activity can actually give the chance for the mentor and mentee to connect. And we have to do it intentionally. So I mean, doing exercise is okay, but what happened next? I think if after that both the mentor and the mentee are too tired, cannot even speak, cannot even talk, then I think it's not recommended. But let's say it's a light exercise where the two, both the mentor and mentee can actually talk heart to heart, and I think it's good. What we do usually is eat. Eating is the best kind of activity for mentoring. uh, yeah, because yeah, as you know, I mean, um, this is something I learned because okay, let me share a personal story. Because for me, in my family, last time eating is a chore, so we just finish eating in 15-20 minutes. But I got to know, for example, in my wife's family, eating is a family event, is actually relational. So this is something I learned, right? So, and therefore I agree that eating is one of the best kind of activities for mentoring. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think the
Very,
intentionality is more important. Yeah.
very good example. You learn from your wife and family. That's family value. And what we mentee learn from the mentor is something that we can actually know the value of the learning and the reason behind it. Thank you.